All right, welcome everyone. I'm Allie Armisen, the Military Veteran Program Director here at Cybercrime Support Network. Thanks for joining us today. All right, it's already week 3 of Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Today, we're going to be talking about top scams facing consumers, but we're also going to take some time and dive into some of the scams that target the military and veteran community. Before we begin, if you missed our week 1 and our week 2 webinars, I encourage you to go check them out. Week 1 focused on building a foundation of security. It covered the basics of good security practices that will keep you safe from cybercriminals. Week 2 focused on how to spot a scammer. A lot of good information in those webinars. Again, please go check them out. All right, well, today, my 2 guests are from the Veterans Benefits Administration. Monica Rivera is the Chief of Stakeholder Engagement and Organizational Change Management. And Aaron Johnson is the lead analyst for the fraud operations team. Thank you both so much for being here today. I'm really looking forward to our discussion, but we have a lot to cover, so let's jump right in. I'm going to start us off by talking about the top scams that affect all consumers. Those scams are imposter scams, identity theft, and online shopping scams. An imposter scam is exactly what it sounds like, right? It's a person pretending to be someone else in order to get you to give them your money or information. They can pose as anyone. Some popular choices are posing as a charity or a debt collector or as someone from the government or military. Some may even try and pose as a family member or a friend. In general, the imposter scammer will claim something like, if you don't pay this fine instantly, if you don't give me this information immediately, you're going to lose benefits, be arrested, or even be deported, right? It's going to be very serious and severe. They're trying to get you scared, angry, or frustrated so that you act immediately. A lot of times, they're also really convincing because they're using email addresses that look legitimate, or they're directing you to websites that look real. But none of it's real. They're just really good fakes. All right, next I'm going to talk about identity theft. Identity theft is when someone has stolen your personal information and has used it usually for some sort of monetary gain. A scammer will steal information like names, addresses, account numbers, birth dates, right? And they're going to try and use this information to buy things or open up any bank accounts or credit cards. Common tactics these scammers are going to use to steal your information include utilizing a phishing attack, skimming your credit card, rummaging through your trash, or obtaining it through a data breach. All right, the final scam I'm going to talk about today is online shopping scams. An online shopping scam involves a scammer who uses the internet, involves a scammer who uses the internet to trick you into buying fake or counterfeit items or paying for services that don't exist. Scammers will often create websites that look like popular online stores, or they contact you directly through email or social media. They may even offer great deals on popular items that are really hard to find. Ultimately, the goal of the scammer is to steal your money without delivering the goods or services they promise. Once you pay, the scammer's either never going to send you that item or they're going to send you an inferior fake. All right. So now that we have that basic understanding of the top 3 scams that affect all consumers, let's zero in on the military community. The scams I mentioned will obviously affect the military and veteran community as well. But Monica, can you actually begin by discussing how veterans are targeted by scams and what they need to watch out for?
Absolutely. Veterans are the targets of many of the same types of fraud as the rest of society, and this includes the most common types, which are mail, telephone, and online fraud. It is very important to know that VA takes fraud allegations and the security of veterans' information seriously. For instance, VA is taking proactive measures to monitor veterans' benefit payments to protect and prevent fraudulent activity. When fraud is reported or suspected, VA investigates the incident and initiates actions to protect the veteran. Those responsible for the alleged fraud are reported to law enforcement agencies, and when applicable, benefit payments are issued to the veteran as quickly as possible. We urge veterans to be cautious of companies claiming to contact them on behalf of the Veterans Affairs, or the VA, or presenting themselves as having a special affiliation with the Department of Veterans Affairs. If veterans are unsure about the authenticity of any message that they receive, we urge and recommend to terminate the communication immediately and contact VA at 1-800-827-1000. When calling back, the VA will be able to confirm the authenticity of the communication. We're also aware of a lot of companies out there that are utilizing the media by advertising a need for legal representation. We would like to warn veterans that these companies might be predatory and financially motivated to obtain a portion of their VA entitlements. These companies might not be recognized by VA and could be trying to charge veterans with illegal fees. We also want to warn the veteran community to be very mindful of their social media presence. These individuals they're there, individuals who will try to exploit veterans and their dependents by conducting a special words search on social media. They use computer solving operations known as algorithms to identify emails and phone scams. And email scams are known as phishing, and it occurs when a cyber criminal acts as a trusted entity. Phone scams are known as vishing, which is the fraudulent practice of making phone calls or leaving voice messages claiming to be from trustworthy companies to persuade individuals to reveal personal information such as bank account details and credit card information. I also want to highlight elderly veterans as prime targets for fraud. They can be easily taken advantage of in various ways. Scammers will try to sell strategies to boost their Veterans Affairs benefits, their VA pensions, requesting victims to pay for services. Additionally, scammers will use deceptive practices such as asking victims to hide their funds to qualify for VA programs. Scammers will also threaten to disqualify victims from receiving Medicare, VA healthcare, and other benefit payments if the victim does not pay the fee for the services. And finally, deceptive charity organizations are looking to gain access to personally identifiable information, also known as PII. Scams of this kind include asking the victim to donate to a charity and obtain access to their PII to be used later elsewhere.
Monica, I just wanted to highlight the point you made about elderly veterans, right? And I know you guys are going to talk about this more in a bit, but I really want to emphasize that the elderly in general, right, are targets for scammers. So being an elderly veteran, it's like a double whammy, right? So if you're an older veteran or if you're related to an older veteran, please be on the lookout. Okay. Review the scams we mentioned here today, go over how to recognize them. And remember, if it doesn't feel right, take a pause, right? And do some research. All right. So with that, Erin, what are the 3 scams you want to talk about today?
Thanks, Allie. So I know earlier you mentioned 3 scams for all consumers, and those closely tie into the ones that we see for veterans as well. But the ones I'm going to talk about are more veteran-centric. And the first one is what we see most commonly in the Veterans Benefits Administration, and it's payment redirect fraud. And this occurs when a fraudster obtains a veteran's personal identifiable information, PII for short, and uses that to unlawfully gain access and control of the veteran's accounts. And once compromised, the fraudster redirects the veteran's VA monthly payments into accounts or prepaid credit cards, both of which the fraudster controls. So a veteran's PI is extremely vulnerable to phishing attempts and an array of email scams. The other one I want to mention is a romance and friendship scams. So this is where scammers typically will have fake online profiles to pose as a potential romantic interest or friendly connection. And after gaining the trust of a veteran, they may request that personal identifiable information, that PII, monetary payment, or other compromising information. And veterans are already so much at risk because of the monetary amount associated with their monthly benefits. And also, veterans may be easily identifiable on social media or dating platforms due to photos and job titles. So to relate this scheme back to the one I just talked about, the payment redirect fraud, if a scammer is able to obtain just a little bit of personal information from each one of these scams, that information can be used to do the payment redirect fraud scam, where they're gaining access to accounts and redirecting benefits. And the last one that I want to talk about, this relates to what Monica was talking about too, and Allie that you mentioned, and it impacts mainly our elderly veterans, but it's a pension poaching scam. And the scam, what it does, it involves the VA pension program. And this program is an income-based program. So in order to qualify, a veteran's income and net worth needs to fall below a threshold in order to be eligible for the monthly benefits. And most veterans or survivors who do qualify are in extreme financial hardship, or they're in the elderly veteran community where they're in a nursing home or assisted living and their medical expenses far exceed any income, therefore putting them below that threshold. So what scammers are doing is they're targeting these veterans, particularly over the age of 65, their families and caregivers, and it's become the preferred method for defrauding older veterans. And the pension poachers, what they do is they profit by falsely helping a veteran artificially qualify for these VA pension benefits. And the scheme often involves financial maneuvers like advertising to veterans to hide their assets in trusts or annuities that these fraudsters are presenting to them, which in fact would make them eligible for the program, but not necessarily. So in a similar vein to that pension poaching program, I do want to bring up and talk about a recent case and a success story for our organization. And it involves an individual who took advantage of an extremely vulnerable population. So this is, you can see displayed that this individual was on the FBI's most wanted list. His name is Scott Kahn. He was an owner and operator of Future Income Payments, LLC. And he operated a Ponzi scheme, essentially recruiting poor and desperate pensioners, many including veterans. And specifically what he did to this veteran population is he targeted this vulnerable population, offered up a lump sum loan or payment in return for the veterans depositing their monthly VA check into this FIP fraudulent account. And later they are charged extreme interest rates, upwards of 240%. So our office got involved by doing a connected case analysis and searching the Veterans Benefits Administration to identify the number of impacted veterans and how many deposited at least 1 month of their benefit check into this fraudulent Ponzi scheme. So we developed that analysis, we presented it and delivered it to the Department of Defense and the FBI. And through the results of our connected case analysis, it helped support the indictment of Mr. Kahn. And we are extremely happy to report and see that he was sentenced on August 18th, 2022 to 10 years in prison and a forfeit of $297 million. And it's through cases like this and the payment redirection fraud that we see that we continue to better protect our veterans. So for this case, using data analytics going forward to identify multiple veterans who are depositing into a singular bank account. Is that valid? Is that fraudulent? And using that information to better protect. We also do a lot of education. Monica and her team does a fantastic job of social media posts, fact sheets, campaigns to get the word out about fraud to our veterans, but also to help them know how to apply for benefits and how to work with the VA. And finally, encouraging veterans to seek assistance directly from the VA when filing a claim for processing, and to use our accredited VA representatives, which are free of charge.
I'm going back to that 240% interest rate. That is crazy, right? But if you're desperate, you're going to take that deal if you think it can get you out of whatever terrible situation you're in, right? So
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, successful criminals know human nature, right? And they know what people will do when they're scared or desperate.
Yes.
It's definitely satisfying, though, when we get to see a scammer get what's coming to them. So thank you so much for sharing that story, Erin.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get back to what that first scam you mentioned, Erin, payment redirect fraud. What is the VA doing to protect veterans who've been victims of this scam?
So for payment redirect fraud, that is a lot of what the team I work with, what they do every day to review. So, we get the referrals from the veterans if they are missing a monthly check and they believe it's fraudulent activity. Those reviews come to our team, and first and foremost, we'll investigate. And if we confirm fraudulent activity, we'll determine how to, going forward, protect that veteran's benefits and the safe delivery of the benefits. We report those for the alleged fraud to the Office of Inspector General. And then, and most importantly, we remediate and reinstate a veteran's benefits. So that monthly payment that was lost to that fraudster, we will make that veteran whole and ensure they're getting their benefits going forward. Our team is extremely diligent and working hard to serve the veterans and their families and remain committed to preventing fraud, waste, and abuse.
That's really good to know, Erin. I think it helps to understand what's going on behind the scenes once a case is reported.
Yeah.
All right, so we've just covered a lot on all types of scams and how to recognize them. But what I want to do now is give everyone some simple steps to take that can protect you from the scams that we just covered. So I'm not going to go too much into detail on these steps because our week 1 webinar covered all of this information. So if you're unsure on anything I mentioned, please go watch week 1. Okay, so here are the 5 steps you should take to strengthen your online security to help avoid all types of online scams. So the first and the most basic step, create a strong passphrase for each of your accounts. Make sure those passphrases are longer than 15 characters if possible, and don't repeat those passphrases between accounts. Also consider a password manager because that's a lot to memorize, right? All right, step 2, implement multi-factor authentication, MFA for short. So even if you're using these strong passphrases, there's still the possibility that a cybercriminal can obtain your passphrase in a data breach. Implementing MFA is a great way to increase security on each of your accounts. All right, the next step, update your privacy settings on all of your accounts, right? Make sure to review your privacy settings on every account, including social media. Sometimes we forget that. Consider restricting who can see your friend list, your contacts, photos, posts, everything. All right, next, activate automatic updates. So cybercriminals take advantage of security flaws to plant malicious software on your devices. Updates patch security weaknesses, and they prevent cybercriminals from getting access to your systems. Make sure you're automatically updating everything, right? Not just your computer, but every device and then every app on every device. Basically, if it needs an update, make sure it's automatically updating. By activating these updates, you'll patch security weaknesses with no effort on your end, and that's going to protect your data. All right, finally, learn the elements of a phishing attempt. Phishing is one of the biggest threats to our online security. I know Monica and Erin have already mentioned phishing, but basically it's a type of social engineering attack that tries to trick you into disclosing sensitive information, like your login credentials or some sort of financial information. Most phishing attempts come in the form of an email, and that email is usually going to contain some sort of sense of emergency or urgency, right? Like do this immediately. And they usually have some sort of grammatical errors or spelling errors. So if they have those 2 things, it's probably a phishing attack. All right, with that, Erin, I'm going to come back to you, okay? Do you have any advice specifically for veterans that might add on to everything I just covered?
I do, and some of it ties back to some of the schemes we've all kind of mentioned, but I have a few do's or don'ts. The first one is do be alert. Identity theft, like you said earlier, Allie, it's not always committed by strangers. It can be friends, acquaintances, family members, so be cautious. Do frequently maintain and change and have strong passwords, and never use personal identifiable information in the password. Do be vigilant. If someone offers to hide or rearrange your assets to qualify for VA pension, be cautious of that. Again, that's that pension poaching scheme that I talked about. And if someone goes through with that, veterans may be required to repay those benefits to the government. Do not share your personal login credentials for va.gov, e-benefits, My Healthy Vet, any of the VA platforms. Do not share that with anyone. Do not sign a blank form for someone to complete later. Always complete any VA form or form that you're going to submit to the VA, sign it yourself, and keep a copy for your records. Do not deposit your monthly benefit check directly into a family member's account or a caregiver's account unless that person is a court-appointed or VA-appointed fiduciary. And finally, I just want to talk about suspicious phone calls. Scammers can often change the telephone number or the location of a call. So if you receive a call and the person is claiming to be with the VA and it starts to get suspicious or you are concerned, immediately hang up and call the VA directly at 1-800-827-1000. We have agents across the nation able to answer the call. They can speak to the fact if VA was actually calling or any of the information that we were calling to obtain. You can also work with a power of attorney or a veteran service organization if any questions come up on that.
That's a great last point, Erin. When in doubt, call the VA directly and make sure you're using that number Erin gave, that 1-800-827-1000, right? Don't let those scammers give you a fake number or a fake email. All right, Monica, let's come back to you. Where should veterans go to get more information if they think that they've been contacted by an imposter who's trying to get their benefits?
Ali, that's a very important question, and I have several resources I would like to share with the audience. If veterans suspect they have been victims of disability fraud, they should call immediately at the 1-800-827-1000 number. To report suspected fraudulent activity, please contact VA's Office of Inspector General hotline at va.gov/OIG/hotline. If your identity has been compromised or stolen, please contact the VA Veteran Identity Theft Helpline at 1-855-578-5492. If an entity is projecting misinformation or has questionable business practices regarding VA entitlements, we urge you to file a complaint at the Federal Trade Commission at reportfraud.ftc.gov. For more information on how to avoid scams, please visit the Federal Communications Commission at fcc.gov/veterans-targeted-benefits-scams. If your Social Security number has been compromised or used to fraudulently file tax returns, we recommend that you please contact the Internal Revenue Service, IRS, at 1-800-908-4490. And as a precautionary measure, we recommend that you obtain, review, and monitor your credit reports. You can request a free copy of your credit report by visiting annualcreditreport.com or by calling 877-328228. I know that was a lot of information, but I know that we're displaying it here, and we would just want to make sure you have all the resources you need to take action when needed. And finally, with the passing of PACT Act into law, I want to share some resources to ensure that veterans and their loved ones can safely apply and securely receive VA benefits they might be entitled to. As you might know, the PACT Act expands VA healthcare and benefits for veterans' exposure to burn pits and other toxic substances. This law helps provide generations of veterans and their survivors with the care and benefits they earn and deserve. For information on PACT Act, veterans and survivors who think they might be eligible should apply for PACT benefits right now via va.gov/PACT or call 1-800-MY-VA-411 for more information. For information on presumptive VA claims, please refer to the Presumptive Disability Benefits Fact Sheet. This contains more than 20 burn pit and other toxic exposure PACT Act presumptive conditions. If you need help filing a claim, there are accredited agents, attorneys, and veteran service organizations that can assist you. We recommend you using the Office of General Counsel accreditation tool, where you can validate their credentials. You can access this tool by visiting va.gov/OGC and look for the accreditation search tool. We highly recommend utilizing it. And just to wrap up, just a few reminders. If you're unsure about a phone call, an email, or a text, contact VA directly at 1-800-827-1000. If an entity is projecting misinformation or has questionable business practices regarding VA entitlements, please file a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission. And to report suspected fraud or predatory companies, please contact VA, Office of General Counsel, Office of Inspector General at OIG hotline va.gov. Thank you.
All right, that was great information, Monica. The PACT Act is going to help a lot of veterans and their families. Unfortunately, we know that scammers are going to try and take advantage of the PACT Act too, right? But our goal is to make sure that veterans can spot these scams, these fraudsters, and keep the compensation that they've earned. All right, before we close out, I just want to give the VA's number one last time. Super important, 1-800-827-1000. If you aren't sure if the person you are talking to, emailing, communicating with is from the VA, hang up, stop talking to them, and call that number. All right, ladies, we covered a lot today. All right, don't worry if you didn't get it all. You can always go to fightcybercrime.org. It's a great resource full of information on scams. And we also provide links where you can report a cybercrime. As a reminder, next week will be our fourth and our last webinar for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Our topic will be best practices for very small business owners. Finally, I want to thank my guests again, Monica Rivera and Aaron Johnson from the Veterans Benefits Administration. It was great chatting with you guys. Thank you so much for the great information and helping us fight back against cybercrime. That's it for us, everyone. You have a great day and keep watching out for those scammers. Bye.